Hello everybody, welcome back to Creating Hanley. I am Kimberly at Creating Hanley, and this is a flying geese block. Now the blocks are brick size. So this unit right here is called a flying geese. I guess one is a flying geese as well as several. It's 2.5 inches tall by 4.5 inches wide. So the pattern that I'm going to tell you about today, that I'm going to teach you about, it makes 4 of these, 2.5 unfinished by 4.5 unfinished. And unfinished means this, raw edges. Finished will be 2 by 4 in a block. Okay? So we are going to make 4 of these. And this is 2 flying geese together. And here we did not lose the point. So, if you want to learn how to make precision, no waste, 4 at a time flying geese, this is your tutorial. So, let's get into it. Now, I have my little sticky note right here, so I keep my measurements precise. So, you are going to need 1 5.25 inch square of one color, and then 4 2 7/8 squares in another color. So this is the color that I have. I have the brown, and then I have this gray on the sides. So my brown color is 5.25 inch by 5.25 inch. You just need one of these to make 4 geese. And then for the 4 geese, you need 4 2 7/8 2 7/8 square. So you need 4 of those little guys. All right. Now contrasting colors work well so that you can see the body and the wings of the geese specifically. So if you have very close colors, they may blend together and you may not be able to see. But it's your project, it's your flying geese, so you can do whatever you want. So I have chosen this light gray, which actually has a directional pattern, which makes a difference. So if you look at this closely, you can see, oh, these happen to be the same. That was a mistake because I didn't intend for that to happen. All right, that's also the same too. So this I got from the same square, but you can tell they're going to go in different directions. So what I did, anyway, these are opposites. You can see right here. So your direction, these and these, your direction might get a little wonky, just so you know. If you're really concerned about direction, use your directional fabric in the middle, in this big square, rather than on the sides, because we have to cut this several times, and it's going to get turned around. So experiment with that. Maybe you're okay with it. I happen to be okay with it. You know, it is what it is. I hate that saying. It is what it is. What is it? It's either right or wrong. This is not wrong. It's just different. Okay, guys. Anyway, I'm going to teach you how to make this from these pieces. There's going to be no waste. A couple of dog ears, but no real waste. If you sew it precision, you will get this 2.5. And I didn't trim these. And you can see there's a little bit of a level discrepancy here. And I still didn't trim it, and I'm just going to leave it because it's negligible, and that'll get lost in a seam allowance. So don't even worry about that, okay? I used to worry about that, like when I first started. I was like, oh, I have to have it precise. No, because this will stretch. See how this stretches a little bit? It gets on a bias. This part does not stretch. It's not on the bias. But this part up here stretches. It's on the bias. So you're better off not trimming it. Unless it's really wonky, unless something just like majorly screwed up and like it's way off, then probably just start over again. But then you can trim it at that point. But your don't lose your point up here, and your little brick, your little goose is gonna get off measurement. It's not gonna be precise, not gonna be exact. So yeah, when I started out, I was like, oh, I gotta measure, make sure everything is square. But because this is on a bias, oh, now see, this one is pretty solid, and then this one stretches. This is on a bias. So it depends on where the cut is in the fabric and where the cut is on here, that you're gonna get biases in different places. So you're better off not even trimming it. Measure it, make sure they're all pretty similar. And these were basically 2.5 by 4.5, and I didn't really trim. They might be off just a fraction of a difference, but it's negligible and it gets lost in the seam allowance. Okay, so let's do this, okay? Let's create our geese. So you get this square, you get these squares on the back of these. Draw a line from corner to corner. This is going to be your guide line. You're going to sew 1/4 inch seam on both sides. So if you've been following along with me for a while, you already know how to do that. If you've been sewing for a while, you already know how to do that. If you're brand new to sewing, welcome. Thank you. This is Flying Geese block, or Flying Geese unit is pretty popular in quilting, and so you're going to want to learn how to do this in a larger scale rather than one at a time. Unless the pattern calls for only one flying geese, only one single unit. There's a couple different ways to make one single unit, but if you have to make multiples, it's better to do them, all at once in a bigger batch. I don't know. Flock. Because it's a goose, right? Geese. So anyway. So when you get your lines drawn on all your smaller squares, you are going to line them up. Put the pretty sides together. So face the top down, so that you can see this line. And it's going to be counterintuitive. You're probably going to want to put the fabric with a line like this. Do not do that. That's called snowballing, and that is not this video. You want to make a flying goose. So now we're going to take the drawn line in this corner, line up these edges absolutely perfectly, and then take the other one and line that up absolutely perfectly. So this line, this drawn line that you created, is straight all the way from corner to corner. You can see mine, it matches, it intersects perfectly. That's what you want. Now if you want to stick a couple of pins in here, go ahead and do that. I happen to stick my fingers too many times, so I'm just going to take it right over to the machine and line up my drawn line with my 1/4 inch line on my presser foot. Now if you don't have that, what you can do, there's sometimes on the machine deck itself there is a 1/4 inch mark, and what you can do there is take some tape and just tape a straight line out, so you can measure a straight line out. And you can either draw a marker, a magic marker, so it's permanent, a permanent marker on whatever surface that you have. This happens to be a Sew Steady acrylic extra thing that I paid, I don't know, a couple $100 for. Or you can just put tape on here and make sure that tape is exactly straight too, and then you just follow. As you come up, you line this edge with the tape mark. So that's why you take it all the way out to the end. You just line that up with the tape mark, and then you make sure that this tail continues to follow that line that you drew, okay? So there's a couple of extra lines that you could draw. You could draw the 1/4 inch mark, you could draw the 1/2 inch line from there, and then you can draw a line straight from the needle itself. Now, that is only if the needle is in one specific position. If you change the needle from like left to center to right, it's going to change these lines. So that's why I don't draw permanent lines on here. Okay, so I'm going to take this to my 1/4 inch line on my presser foot, and then that's going to that's going to sew a seam a 1/4 inch away from this drawn line. Okay, I don't know if you can see that very well or not. It's kind of washed out with the light, but let's get into it. So it's taking it a little bit slow so you guys can see. Just follow that line straight down. Now I can already see it's getting wonky, and I think that's because I'm going so slow. So in the next one, I'm going to speed it up a little bit. Now, I don't have to break my thread. I just take this out, spin this around, get this thread out of the way, and then press that back down. So right on the 1/4 inch mark on my presser foot, I line that up with the drawn line once again. And now I'm going to speed this up a little bit. Then you just sew 1/4 inch all the way straight down, sew it off, cut your thread, and then you have 2 sewn lines just like that. It should look exactly like this. Now you can take your rotary cutter, cut that out, or you can take your scissors and just follow this line. Now, do you have to draw a line? No, you do not. But the title of this is precise. So, now if you have your lines here, you actually don't have to draw a line. But you want to flip this open. Now be careful where the bias is, okay? So, excuse me, my throat is dry. So when you open this up, you can finger press this out. Now I just always use a dry iron because I like everything as flat as possible. Now remember, when you iron, you just let the iron do the work. You don't have to swirl it around. Just let the iron do the work. Okay, we're going to do the same thing with this. Open this up. Press it out a little bit. And if you have that roller, that quilting roller, you can use that too. But I'm just going to press that open and just let that iron do the work itself. I'm sorry, guys. Oh my gosh. All right, now you're going to take your 3rd square. So you open it up like this, kind of like heart shape thing. And your drawn line goes down the center of this too. So you make your next unit look like this. So line those edges up. Line these edges up. Make sure it's absolutely perfect, because now you have finally created 2 flying geese. So you want to sew this right down the center here. Now remember, don't sew it down the center. You want to sew your 1/4 inch seam allowance on both sides. And again, I don't need to cut the thread. I just spin it around. And if you want to, you can leave that there. Get your next piece, same thing. Throw that on there. Make sure these are lined up perfectly. This middle point should overlap these 2. Make sure it's absolutely perfect. This is called precision. Okay, now line that up again. 1/4 inch seam allowance. Keep on going. Sew all the way off. spin that around. Oh my gosh, you guys. Of course, I get on film and then I start coughing. And there we go. Cut your thread. And now, separate these. Trim. Or actually not trim, but just cut the center to separate. And then when you open this up, bingo, you have a flying goose. Or a flying geese. Now I like to, of course, iron it open. But you don't have to. Iron them all open. Dry iron. Okay. And now you can see this fabric, this directional, is like that. And this directional fabric is like that. It's the same. And somehow I managed to get all the fabric in the same direction. So as you could see, I didn't plan that. I just threw it on there. So it must have been the way that I had drawn the lines on the fabric. And I wasn't even paying attention to that either. So I think it just worked out that way by accident. It's a happy accident. Now you're done. You don't have to trim. The only thing I would do is trim these little dog ears off. And here, I'll just do it here. Trim that off. Trim this off. And then trim this one off. And voila. Do that for all 4 of your flying geese. Now, if you want to make sure that they are pretty much 2.5 by 4.5, you take your measuring ruler, or whatever you have, measuring device, and I'll show you on here. This one is pretty much 2.5 by 4.5. Okay? It's a little bit wonky, but it's pretty close, and a lot of that, all of that will get lost in the seam allowance. So here's 4.5 by 2.5. Okay. Oh, you can't really even see it that way, but here, I'll do it back here. So here's 4.5, and here's 2.5. Okay? So you can measure that all 4. Not even a whole lot of stuff to trim. I mean, just take off the dog ears and you're good. And even up here, like this, is perfectly level. So that is what you want. That's the precision that you want. And there's no waste. The only waste is going to be these little teeny tiny dog ears. And you really don't want to leave those on because it does create an extra bulkiness to your blocks when you put all these, when you sew these together. That is unnecessary and annoying. Whoops, that just shot out. Okay, so there you go. There is your easy way to make 4 at a time flying geese units. Now, to put them together, whatever direction you want, you can start doing something like this. And let me take you down to this surface so you can see a pattern start to develop. If you wanted to put, I think it's called Dutchman's block, something like that. So you can put all these together in the same line. You can have something going like this. You can put them in opposite directions if you want. Now the Dutchman's block is something like this, I believe, like a pinwheel. And then, oh, how does that go? Oh, like this. And then like this. Yeah, that's it. So you can have different colors if you want. If you wanted to make, these outer ones different colors, you don't have to use the same color in the center. You can have a different color in centers. So I did mine all the same. But this, I believe this is called a Dutchman's block or something like that, because you can see the pinwheel in the center, right? Yeah, okay. And then you sew those together. Or you could do something like this and something like this if you wanted to. Because basically it's a 4-patch. You sew these two together, these two, these two, these two, and now you've created 4-patch, and you can do whatever you want there. If you wanted to do something like this even, and then create a diamond in the center, you can do that. You can have them facing each other like this, and then, you know, however you want to do that, you play with it. But, basically, now you have 8. 2, 4, 6, 8. So all you had to do was do 2 of these twice. Or I mean 2 of these. Make your 4 twice. And that'll give you a block, probably 8 by 8. I think it's an 8 by 8. If you take 4.5 by 4.5, that's going to be 8 by 8. So it's an 8 by 8 block finished. All of these sewn in together. I hope that helps you figure out how to do flying geese, how to make a flying geese unit. So if you have any questions on that, let me know in the comment section below. You guys have fun doing this. Don't lose your points when you sew these together. Here, let me do this real quick for you. So you just take 2 of these. If you wanted to have this in the same direction, take both of these here, let me bring this down for you. So you're going to have this going on, right? Sew these together, so you want to sew this. So you take this on top of that. So flip that down. You're going to sew right on here, 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now, if you want to make sure that you don't sew over that point, you want to have this point up. You could sew it blindly if you so choose, or you can make sure that you don't sew right over that point. So when you get to this spot, slow down your needle so that you're precise. You don't sew into that point, okay? So you take it over to the machine, 1/4 inch seam allowance. When you get to here, slow your machine down, make it more precise, and then you can speed it up to the end. Cut your thread, and here's the big reveal. You have not lost that point, okay? One more thread over and you would have lost, and I would have lost that point. But so far that point is saved, and this point is definitely saved. All right? So now that's all you have to do. This becomes a unit, this becomes a unit. You do that 2 more times, you have a 4-patch. You put your 4-patch together in whatever way you want, okay? And then you would sew those units together, and then those 2, and then sew all those together. All right, you guys. Have fun making flying geese. Let me know how it goes in the comment section below. I'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.